The sound of metal scraping against my front door woke me with a start. At first, I thought it was just a stray noise carried by the wind, but then came the unmistakable rattle of a key forced into a lock that didn't belong to the person holding it. My heart raced as I crept toward the peephole, pulse hammering in my ears. And there she was, Karen, the self-proclaimed queen of our HOA, standing smugly under the porch light with a massive ring of keys dangling from her hand. She twisted one into my lock, tugged, cursed under her breath, and twisted again, her obese frame leaning into the effort as if she had every right to invade my home. I flung the door open before she could try again. "What the hell are you doing?" I demanded, my voice cracking through the quiet night. Karen didn't even flinch. She straightened, lips curling into that condescending smile she had weaponized for years. "This property is subject to HOA inspection. My key should work. You must have tampered with the lock." Her words dripped arrogance, but the truth was plain. She had no business trying to get inside. My house wasn't common property. It was mine, bought with my own sweat and blood after years of working midnight shifts as a 911 dispatcher, answering calls from people clinging to life. "You don't have authority to enter my house," I snapped. "That's called breaking and entering." She waved me off like I was a child throwing a tantrum. "Breaking and entering? Don't be dramatic. I'm the president of this association. The bylaws allow for access when residents don't comply. Your siding is outdated, your lawn violates code, and frankly, your attitude has become a nuisance." I was checking for violations. Her smugness seared into me. Violations? At midnight. She wasn't checking anything, she was trying to prove her power. I took out my phone and recorded her, my hands steady with anger. "Karen, I'm telling you clearly. Step off my property. Right now." But instead of leaving, she pulled out her own phone and, with theatrical outrage, dialed 911. "Yes, officer. I'm the HOA president," she barked into the receiver. "And I'm being threatened by an unstable man who's tampering with locks and preventing me from inspecting this property." That was the moment I almost laughed. Because what Karen didn't know, what she couldn't possibly know, was that my dispatcher console was active upstairs. And the voice that answered her call, calm and professional, belonged not to some random operator but to my trainee, sitting a few feet away from my living room on her overnight training shift. I heard the faint, clipped response through Karen's speaker. 911. "What's your emergency?" My heart nearly burst with irony. She thought she was weaponizing the system against me, but she had just dialed into my own workplace, into the very people I trained and trusted with lives every night. Karen ranted into the phone, exaggerating every detail. "He's unstable. He's yelling. His dogs are aggressive. He's violating community safety." I kept my phone camera trained on her, recording every word. Then came the twist. My dispatcher, cool as ice, said, "Ma'am, can you confirm your location and your name?" Karen puffed up proudly, shouting it loud enough for the whole street to hear. "I'm Karen DuBois, HOA president, and I demand police immediately." A pause followed, then the dispatcher's voice, calm but sharp as a blade. "Karen DuBois, this call is being recorded. Be advised, attempting unlawful entry is a criminal offense. Several neighbors have already reported suspicious activity at your location. Remain where you are. Officers are en route." Karen's face drained of color. She sputtered, No, you don't understand. I'm in charge here." But her composure cracked as porch lights flicked on up and down the street. Neighbors began stepping outside, phones raised, recording the scene. Some whispered in disbelief, others outright jeered. One man shouted, "We saw you with the keys, Karen. What are you doing?" Another yelled, "You've gone too far this time." Karen tried to salvage her dignity, straightening her robe and snapping, "You'll all thank me when this place is in order." But her words fell flat, drowned in the growing chorus of anger. She had ruled by intimidation for years, threatening fines, sending nasty letters, humiliating people at HOA meetings. But tonight, caught red-handed, her kingdom crumbled before her eyes. And then the headlights appeared, 2 squad cars rolling silently down the street. Karen smirked again, mistaking the cavalry for her salvation. She puffed her chest, pointing at me as the officers stepped out. "That's him. Arrest him now." He threatened me. But the officers didn't approach me. They approached her. One of them, Officer Reynolds, nodded at me. "We've got the call log. We've got the footage from multiple neighbors. Ma'am, you're under arrest for attempted unlawful entry, harassment, and filing a false police report. The words dropped like hammers. The neighbors erupted in cheers, phones flashing, voices echoing. Karen shrieked, "You can't arrest me. I'm the HOA president." Reynolds didn't even blink. "Lady, the badge on your clipboard isn't law. Cuff her." As they clasped the handcuffs around her wrists, her screams rang through the night, but no one pitied her. Max, my German shepherd, barked once from inside the house, as if sealing the moment with triumph. And I stood there, recording the final chapter of her tyranny, knowing this time the law and the truth had caught up to her. The night Karen was taken away, the street felt different, lighter somehow. Neighbors lingered in small groups, whispering and shaking their heads. Some clapped me on the shoulder, others just stared at the empty space where she had stood in handcuffs. For years, she had ruled with threats and fines, and now, in the span of a single night, her empire collapsed like rotten wood. My phone buzzed nonstop with messages from co-workers at the dispatch center. Half of them couldn't believe she had dared to weaponize 911 against me of all people. The other half were laughing so hard they promised to save the call recording for training tapes. The following morning, the videos hit the internet. Neighbors had caught every detail. Karen fumbling with keys that didn't fit, her shrill 911 call, the dispatcher's firm response, the moment officers cuffed her while she screamed about being the president. The clips spread like wildfire. By midday, local news anchors were replaying it with wide eyes, veterans groups were sharing it on social media, and strangers were sending messages of support. One headline read, "HOA president arrested for attempted break-in after 911 call backfires." Another was harsher. "Key to nowhere. HOA tyrant busted after trying to enter home at midnight." Karen tried, of course, to spin the story. From jail, she issued statements through her lawyer claiming she was enforcing community safety codes and that my unstable dogs and aggressive behavior forced her to act. But the evidence was too strong. The video showed her inserting a key. The audio captured her calling my son's uniform a military costume weeks earlier at another dispute. And the 9/11 recording that was the final nail. Hearing her demand police while the dispatcher calmly reminded her that unlawful entry is a crime was all anyone needed. The trial became a public spectacle. The courtroom overflowed with neighbors, reporters, even strangers who'd driven hours just to watch justice unfold. Karen walked in, no longer draped in the authority of her clipboard and bylaws, but in a wrinkled suit, her arrogance barely masking the cracks beneath. She tried to hold her head high, but every camera lens seemed to weigh her down. The prosecution wasted no time. They played the video from my porch cam, then the neighbor's footage, then the 911 audio. The jury leaned forward, listening as Karen's voice filled the room. "I'm the HOA president, and I demand police immediately." The dispatcher's calm reply, "Ma'am, unlawful entry is a crime," played like poetry. The jury exchanged looks. Even the judge's lips twitched, as if restraining disbelief. Neighbors testified one by one. Jessica, the young mother, spoke of being fined for holiday lights. Mr. Nolan told the story of Karen trespassing to measure his fence. Another neighbor recounted how she had written up their child for riding a bike too fast. Each story wasn't just about petty power, it was about a community living under siege. Then came my testimony. I stood tall, uniform pressed, and spoke not just as a dispatcher, but as a father, a neighbor, a man fed up with tyranny disguised as community service. I explained how Karen had tried to use a key on my lock, how she called 911 with lies, how she had turned a lifeline meant to save people into a weapon for her ego. And then I turned toward her, steady and clear. "Karen, you didn't just fail to open my door. You failed to open the truth. The truth is, you never cared about community. You cared about control." The courtroom fell silent. The judge leaned forward, hands clasped, eyes sharp. Karen's lawyer sputtered excuses, but nothing could cover the damage. The verdict came swift, guilty of attempted unlawful entry, harassment, and filing a false police report. Her sentence, 12 months in county jail, fines exceeding $15,000, restitution to the HOA for legal costs, and a permanent ban from holding any position of authority in community organizations. The moment the gavel struck, The neighborhood erupted in applause. Reporters rushed to file their stories. Veterans saluted me as I left the stand, and Karen, once so bloated with power, was escorted out in shackles, her protests drowned in the sound of a community reclaiming its voice. But the true victory wasn't in her punishment. It was in what happened after. The HOA board, once her puppet council, resigned within a week. In its place, neighbors voted to form a community circle, voluntary, transparent, built not on fines, but on cooperation. We started with a potluck dinner on the very street where she'd tried to claim dominion. Kids rode their bikes without fear, porches lit up with decorations, lawns blossomed in their own quirky ways. For the first time, we weren't living under her shadow, we're living freely, together. At the first community gathering, I brought out the very recording of Karen's 911 call. We played it on a small speaker, and when her shrill demand echoed, laughter rang through the night. But when the dispatcher's calm reply followed, a cheer erupted. That wasn't just my workplace speaking, it was the voice of justice, a reminder that no one, not even an HOA tyrant, could twist the truth forever. Weeks later, I received a plaque from my dispatch team. On it was a simple engraving: "Keys don't open every door. Truth does." Beneath it was a photo of Max, my German shepherd, sitting proudly in front of the door Karen had tried to force. It hung on my wall as a daily reminder not just of victory, but of resilience. Karen faded into disgrace, her name whispered with mockery instead of fear. Rumors said she tried to join another HOA in a nearby county, but when the board learned her history, they laughed her out of the building. She became a cautionary tale, a living reminder that arrogance and abuse of power always collapse under the weight of truth. As for us, the neighborhood thrived. We painted fences, shared tools, celebrated birthdays on the cul-de-sac. And every time I answered a 911 call at work, I remembered that night not with anger, but with a quiet pride. Because justice doesn't always roar. Sometimes, it speaks in calm tones through a dispatcher's headset, reminding the world that truth always finds its way. So I'll leave you with this. When someone like Karen twists authority and tries to break into what isn't theirs, what defines true justice? The punishment she faces, or the unity that rises in her absence? Right or wrong, I know this much. The door she tried to force shut opened something far greater: our freedom to live without fear.